Hello, everybody. It is Juliet from JulietMailing.com, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how to create your own expense tracker in Microsoft Excel. You could also use this method in Google Sheets if you prefer that. So the first thing you'll want to do is you'll want to start from where you're at, and that means looking up and making note of how much money you currently have in your checking account. So let's say in your checking account you have $1,000. After that, you're going to want to look at your pending transactions on your credit cards. You can also pull your receipts out if you have those, but if you don't, you can always pull up your bank account and look at your pending transactions from your credit cards. The reason why I'm talking about credit card transactions is because your credit card purchases do not reflect immediately versus when you pay with a debit card, that money is immediately taken out of your checking account. But with credit cards, you have to make the extra effort to take out the money from your checking account to pay off your credit cards. So if you aren't tracking your expenses, it can be really risky sometimes using a credit card because you don't realize how much you're actually spending. But if you're tracking your expenses, it'll make it very easy to see how your credit card purchases will reflect on your checking account amount. This can help you avoid overdraft fees or not being able to pay a certain bill in the future. And it's a really good safety net to have. And you can see if there's any trends in your spending. So let's go ahead. Let's say that you have 3 separate transactions that are pending on your credit card. Let's say you have a Netflix subscription, a Starbucks purchase, and your car wash subscription. So when you're notating how much your credit card transactions are, you are going to want to add a minus sign in front of the dollar value. That is because you want to make sure you know that these are expenses and not income. It'll also make it very easy when you go and make calculations on the total amounts later. So let's go ahead, we'll add that in. One thing to note is that in Microsoft Excel, when you have a negative value, it will be in red. And that's really helpful for you to know because if not, it can get pretty confusing. But then let's say you have your Starbucks and that's $3. And then your car wash subscription is $20 a month. So let's go ahead and make some calculations. So I like to see how each individual transaction will affect my checking account. So we'll go ahead and make those calculations. So what you'll do to make a calculation in Excel, you are going to start off by writing the equal sign, and then you will select the values you want to calculate. So in this case, because I want to see how my Netflix transaction will affect my checking account, I'm going to add my checking account amount with my Netflix transaction. The reason why we are adding is because we have a positive number and a negative number. And when you add a positive number to a negative number, it will be technically a subtraction problem. So once we do that, we'll click enter, and you'll see that once I pay down my Netflix subscription, I will be left with $984.01 in my checking account. We'll go ahead and make those calculations for the Starbucks and the car wash subscription. Alrighty, so now after all my credit card purchases and once I pay those off from my credit card, my checking account looks like it will be down to $961.01. You can double check this value by actually adding up everything in this column right here. So for you to add it up, the easiest way is to write equals sum parentheses and then just selecting the column or selecting the values you want to add. And there you go, $961. And the decimal place can be increased by clicking on this button up here. So you see these two values right here are the same, and that is a really good way to double check that you're making your calculations correctly. So one thing I like to add to my expense tracker are any purchases that I predict are coming up. So that could include a grocery trip that I'm planning on doing. It could include maybe gas for the week, rent that's due, a paycheck that I'm getting. I just like adding those expenses and potential income to my expense tracker so I know exactly where my checking account stands. So let's go ahead, let's make some predictions of how different purchases will influence your checking account. So we're going to make these predictions in orange just so we know that these are predictions and they have not actually happened yet. So let's say you're going to get gas for the week. You're going to go grocery shopping, and you know that you're going to go out to eat at Chipotle. Alrighty, so gas is a little hard because the gas prices fluctuate, but you can just use the last value you paid for your gas tank. So let's say the last time you paid for gas was $30. And then groceries, $150, Chipotle, let's just say $10. Alrighty, so these are my three predictions that I'm trying to see how they're going to influence my checking account. We can do the same calculations that we did over here by adding the values. Alrighty, so you can see with these three predicted transactions, my checking account will be down to $771.01. Again, you can double check yourself by just adding up all the values in your second column. And you see they have the same value. We'll extend out the decimal point, but they are the exact same value. So this is how you can create a very simple expense tracker in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. This is a great way to always know what's happening with your money. It can protect you from overdraft fees or any surprises that may hit your bank account. You can also make sure you have a safety net in case there's fraud on your account. You know exactly the last value your checking account had, or at least close to what your last checking account value had. It's a great way to watch for trends in your spending and to also predict if a certain purchase is going to leave you having nothing left in your checking account. I hope this tutorial was helpful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below.